religious does an organization need to be to qualify for a religious exemption? That was the thrust of today's questions at the Supreme Court. Catholic Charities wants the High Court to resolve a tax dispute it has with the state of Wisconsin, asking the justices to reverse a Wisconsin Supreme Court decision that describes its work as not typical religious activity, and that the only way it could receive an exemption from the state unemployment tax would be to hire only Catholics and try to convert the people it serves. Across the ideological spectrum today, concerns the state went too far in unlawfully discriminating based on religious beliefs under the First Amendment.
Is Wisconsin going to go around and this soup kitchen? You know, you have to go to the service before you get your good. They're good to go, but that one they just invite you to the service after the soup. They're bad. I mean, is really that's the? I would have thought this would entangle the state in religion a whole lot more than a non-discrimination rule between religions.
The court's opinion is expected this summer in June or early July, with far-reaching implications however it rules. Well, joining me now is Daniel Sir. He's the president of the Center for American Rights. Daniel, welcome to you. So you've written that it's very rare for cases from Wisconsin to draw the High Court's eye. I want to ask, why is this case so important and why you think the justices decided to hear this particular case?
Yeah, John, this case is important not just for people in Wisconsin, but really people of faith across the country, because it poses this fundamental question: are we going to contract how the law views religion to just what happens on Sunday morning? Or any time that people are motivated by their faith to go out and do good deeds throughout the week, will we recognize that also as the free exercise of religion? That's the question at the heart of this case. Is the religious freedom we enjoy restricted only to traditional worship type settings, or does it encompass the broad array of social services, good works, charities, and other types of programs that churches and faith-based groups do every day?
Drilling down to this specific case, at issue here is whether religious organizations like Catholic Charities have to pay state unemployment taxes or get a religious exemption like churches or the Catholic Church. What's the argument here? Why wouldn't a group like Catholic Charities receive that exemption?
Yeah, the Wisconsin Supreme Court upheld the decision of the state agency here, essentially saying you don't do churchy enough activities to qualify. So the bureaucrats and the Wisconsin lower court had a vision for what looks religious. It's handing out gospel tracts, it's praying with people, it's holding church services, it's conducting theological education. And they really tried to narrow what counts as religion to the things, as I say, that look like church on Sunday morning, or very traditional, narrow scope of associated ministries. And I think what the court was pushing on today, the lawyer for the state, was to ask, first of all, there are lots of religions that don't look typical. There are lots of religions that don't fit our sort of immediate mental picture of what church might look like. But second, even for a very mainstream church like the Catholic Church, if they're engaged in schools, universities, hospitals, in these cases, centers for people with physical and developmental disabilities, isn't that also a form of religious ministry that deserves the protections of the First Amendment?
Real quickly, we only have about a minute left, Daniel. Did you get a sense of which direction the justices might land in this case, and then also the ramifications between how the government deals with religious organizations going forward?
Yeah, so I was really encouraged coming out of today's argument, John, that across the jurisprudential spectrum, whether you might think of justices as liberal or conservative, really the entire court expressed deep skepticism about the state's position here. All of the justices, whether liberal or conservative, were really pushing the lawyer for the state with tough questions that I think made clear we may even get a unanimous 9-0 decision here, reversing the Wisconsin Supreme Court. I'm hopeful that that will not only right the wrong in this particular case, but really set a precedent that protects religious, faith-based communities of all types and all different sorts of ministries, to say that the government needs to keep its distance, that taxing religious ministries should not be the default,
Okay.
and that we don't want bureaucrats and inspectors from the government showing up to determine whether or not a ministry looks churchy enough. That's
All
just
right.
not the government's job.
Daniel, sir, with the Center for American Rights, thank you so much for your time, Daniel.
Of course, John, good to be with you.